Good afternoon. My name is Kareem Beezer, and for my presentation, I decided to go with the jQuery panel slider. So this presentation is just basically gonna walk you guys through it a little bit, take you on a little ride as far as me myself basically learning how the plugin works, learning how to implement the plugin on my sites, and pretty much just gaining enough knowledge to kind of give you a presentation and kind of teach you a little bit about it. So let's just jump right in. So right here, you see my first slide. It says jQuery panel slider, a simple jQuery plugin with amazing results, and that's created by me, Kareem K. Beezer. So we go on to the next slide. All right, and get to the objective. The purpose of this presentation is to inform users on what the jQuery panel slider is and how you can incorporate the plugin in your projects. That is my objective for this assignment. What it is. The jQuery panel slider plugin lets you easily open up slide panels from either the left or the right side, which can contain either default content or content loaded using Ajax. And here's just a brief screenshot of my example of the plugin in action itself. I just created something just basic, just to pretty much show you guys how the panel itself works. So I basically created a blank HTML page with just an H1 that says my panel slider. I put a button right here to open up the left side, a button right here to open up the right side, and then I got a little information, get full usage instructions and the source code itself right here at this link. This link right here is the GitHub page itself for the jQuery panel slider. So let's go to the next slide. We got to see the slider in action. Alright, so this example right here just pretty much displays the left side of the slider itself. So like I said, you click on the panel, you click on the button, the panel slides over from the left. This right here is just basic content that I just inputted myself. We'll get to the code in a second. But I just put pretty much here, this could be like a site navigation, a little side menu, that you yourself could literally have on your site, or the users can actually click a button to get this to pop up on the screen. We go on to the next slide. The next slide is just pretty much the same concept, but it shows you how the panel opens up on the right side. Now the difference with the left side of the panel on the right side, which you'll see in the code itself, is that in this side the click close function is set to false. So with click close being set to false, it basically means that you will literally need to hit this close button in order to get this panel to actually close off the screen. If we go back up to the left side real quick, you'll notice that I have right here, click anywhere outside this panel to close it. So once this panel on the left is open, if you hit anywhere outside of the panel area itself, it automatically closes the panel. But for the right side itself, I just literally, for example purposes, I just have it set as click close to false. So I added a little button on there which triggers another function to close the right side of the panel once it's hit. And that's pretty much my basic example of how the panel slider itself, like I said, it could be used for a lot of many different things on that, but I'm just giving you a brief kind of outlook of how it will look when you put it on your sites. Now let's get into the code itself. Right here is a screenshot of the index.html page itself for my demo that you just saw, and it's a basic HTML setup. Basically, I have the title of my slider. This is where I link my CSS page. Then we get down to the body. Now, the first thing you see here is a div with ID of page. Now, basically that I just basically did that for the CSS purpose, as far as when you get to the style and whatnot. Right here, you can see my H1 that says the panel slider, and literally just a button, just an anchor tag wrapped in a button tag, and give this the ID of the left panel link. This is once again for styling purposes for the CSS, and just give it the href of the ID left panel. And the same thing for the right button. Same thing for my instructions right here. This is just basically an anchor tag linking you to the GitHub page for the panel slider itself. And then when we go down towards the bottom of the code, you got this right here. You got two divs. You got the first div and you got the second div. The first div is for the left panel. The second div is just for the right panel. And literally it's just the static information that I typed in. There's a site navigation. It tells you on the left panel that you can click anywhere outside the panel to close it, and also on the right panel, static information, this list items, stuff that I put in myself, and it tells you it won't close. Now I have this section wrapped in a code tag right here to show that click close on the right side is equal to false. By default is equal to true, but I set it to false just so I can literally input this button with the ID close panel, just to actually get the right panel to close itself. And right on the bottom is just my script tags where I linked in the main.js, the panel slider, and the panel slider min file, panel slider, and the main.js. And that's pretty much my my index file. It's not anything too in depth. Like I said, I just kept it basic, whatnot. Next, we're gonna move on to the JS file, so you can actually see what the panel slider itself a little bit is what it's doing. How am I calling it in this instance? So if you have a look at the JS file, you'll see that I have everything wrapped inside a document.ready function, which is the basic standard function for jQuery. Lets the page once the page everything loads, then it starts going into the actual code itself. You have the jQuery selector. So what this first line number 2 is basically saying is that you're looking for an ID with the ID with the name left panel link, and you just basically giving the panel slider. So if you go back up to the code itself, then you will see that left panel link is basically given right here. Left panel link is given in that function. So every time you click the button, which is basically open the left panel, what's basically going to happen is going to run the panel slider code right here, where I'm giving it right here. Right underneath it, this next selector is for the right side, the right panel, and basically what it's doing is literally you activate the panel slider, but the panel slider has an argument inside of it, and it's basically saying which side the panel is going to pop up on. It's going to pop up on the right side, like I said here. You see right here in the code where it says click close equal false. Like I said, by default that's equal to true. I basically put that in here so I could get the button going, and this is the duration of how the panel is going to slide over. This last selector right here is for the actual close button itself in the right panel, and basically when you click on that button, it opens up a function. The function basically panel slider close. So it basically just does what the first selector does. It just literally closes the panel for you. On the next slide itself, it's pretty much just a CSS. It's basic layout, just basic styling. So they got the body styles, give it a background of EE, give it a font type of Arial. All the H1 to H2 gave the margin type of 0, keep it nice and compressed. I gave the paragraphs a color, line height of 1.5, just spaced out the words a little bit. All your anchors, text declaration none, is pretty much taking care of all the underlines. And here is where I style the page and where I style the panel. So the page itself, I gave it a static width 940, give it a static height, give it a pattern 20 pixels all around, a background of white, margin 0 auto for responsiveness reasons. The panel itself, automatically I display none, so that the when the page loads, the panels don't pop up. It's automatically set to display none until the buttons are actually click. I give the panels this way. I give it a static width. Each panel is 220 pixels, 20 pixels of pattern all around. Give it a background color. Give all the text a color of EF, 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 and it's basically a box shadow, a simple box shadow of inset starting from the outside for the border of all the panels. And then I gave that a color of 222. So that's basically the code explained for my example. And the last slide is pretty much my conclusion. So in conclusion, the jQuery panel slider comes in very handy if you're in need of a sidebar or even just an alternative menu that users can interact with. It is very easy to use, and the implementation process takes minutes once you familiarize yourself with the documentation. Of course, with all these plugins, there's always going to be documentation involved. I just found that this plugin itself was quite easy to break down, quite easy to understand, and also quite easy to implement. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. I'd like to say thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.